Greetings, dear friends, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. So just as people are arriving, let's just ourselves arrive within ourselves a little more. Just feeling the ground beneath us and taking a few slower breaths, slowing down. Okay, so we'll begin by some chanting, as we usually do on the Sunday Sangha. Of course, we have this special occasion here with Kittisaro returning home after a 2-year in-depth study practice program at the Dharma Realm Buddhist University at the City of 10,000 Buddhas, which of course I'll be asking questions. What happened? What was going on? Tell us about it. So we're celebrating. Yesterday was Kittisaro's actual formal graduation. And they had a beautiful ceremony at the City of 10,000 Buddhas, the Sudana Center, which is where all the students were lodged. It was really, really lovely. And to see Kittisaro in his cap and gown, being awarded his certificate, and all the other practitioners there. Beautiful. It's a very unique expression of the Dharma that comes through that lineage. And they've been going in the US, it's from China, originally Master Xunhua, and they've been going for about 50 years, I think, maybe even 60 years, doing these incredible practices. And since 1976 at the City of 10,000 Buddhas, day in, day out, and hundreds and thousands of people pass through from all over the world to join them in their practices, mostly from Asia. Focusing on really in-depth Chan, Guanyin sessions, studying suttas. And so this is an incredible frequency that they're putting into the world of peace and dissolving the toxicity of these times and all times. So Kittisaro has been immersed in that world. So it's really great we can hear a little bit about it. So, but first, let's start in our usual way. I'm just going to put the chanting booklet in the chat, and I'm going to screen share it actually. And Juna, I'm just going to make you a co-host, if you wouldn't mind just letting folks in as we're doing the chanting. And the weight room has been disabled, so people might just, but occasionally I don't quite know if people get stuck on their way in. So thank you for that. Okay, friends, let's just take a few deep breaths before we begin the puja. We'll do the puja and then we'll sit for a short while. And as I said, I'll screen share the chant so you can follow there as well. We'll start with the precepts. We'll do the recollection of the triple jewel, the recollection of the 4 Brahma Viharas, and the Great Compassion mantra. Then we'll sit for a little while, and then we'll have a chance to find out what Kittisaro has been up to. So we'll begin with the precepts, and we'll just go through them together. It's always a good way to begin. and end a week. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saranang gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saranang gacchāmi. Pāṇādipāṇā veramani sikkhapadāṃ samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training to refrain from intentionally taking life. Adinādāna veramani sikkhapadāṃ samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training to refrain from taking that which was not given. Kammesu mejajara veramani sikkhapadāṃ samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training to refrain from misuse of sexuality and the senses. Musavada veramani sikkhapadāṃ samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training to refrain from speech that is false, divisive, harsh, and meaningless. Sura merayama jabamadatana veramani sikkhapadāṃ samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training to refrain from intoxication which leads to carelessness. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Iti piso bhagavā arahant samma sambuddho vijjāya sammano sagado logavidu daro buddhisa namasarati sanadeva manusanam buddho bhagavati savakado vadadamo sandiningo angalingo imasingo manayingo manyanawe dinamo inyuhite samanimano Savakasangho Hujumanimano Magavado Savakasangho Nyaya Patipano Magavado Savakasangho Sangha Tanjanare Muri Sayungani Atamuri Kala He Sambangavato Sawaka Sangho Ahanayo Mahanayo Dakineyo Jali Karaniyo Anutarambun Kedalongasani. Then on page 8, if you're following the chanting booklet at home, is the recollection of the 4 boundless qualities of the Brahmaviharas. Now let us make the 4 boundless qualities shine forth. The wine pervading 1 quarter, with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a heart imbued with compassion. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a heart imbued with gladness. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with gladness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1 quarter, with a heart imbued with equanimity. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. The great compassion mantra, which is on page 12 of the chanting booklet, and here on the screen, of course. Just take a short while to sit quietly in whatever posture or way that is supportive for you right now. Just a chance to unhook from the momentum of it all, to connect with some ground, some literally touching earth. Everything is come from the earth, actually. Even this computer screen, our bodies, everything's sustained by the miracle of nature. So just feeling where your body's literally touching, maybe feet on the ground, or the pressure sitting on your seat. And that sensation is more neutral on the whole, less activating. There's so much to manage these days. that is overwhelming to our nervous systems. So just taking time to steady, to slow down, to recalibrate ourselves by touching into these more grounded, more neutral places of contact with earth. Maybe feeling just your palms in your lap or touching each other in meditation posture. And perhaps if it's helpful, taking a few slower, deeper, more deliberate breaths. Just filling on the inhalation, subtly, gently filling the body with the chi, the breath energy, oxygenating gently through the body, through all the patterning and the cells and the bones and the flesh and all the places that feel tight or discordant or disturbed, energetic feeling, emotionally felt sense, often very troubled. Just soothing, calming, and exhalation. Can also just feel on the exhalation that natural sense of giving back, putting down. As the shoulders drop, the face maybe soften a bit, softening down through the torso, softening the belly, arms, hands, down through the pelvic area, legs to the feet. So from time to time, 3 or 5 breaths like this can really help steady, ground, slow down, arrive into our own inner presence, embodied presence, illuminating all that is within the field of our awareness, to be touched by knowing, contemplation, the gaze of Guanyin, Avalokiteshvara, Guanom, the one that contemplates at ease all sentiency, all beings, all that arises in the field of awareness, inviting, activating Guanyin within our own citta, heart, mind, at ease in the midst of it all, in the midst of samsara. From that deep knowing, present gaze, awareness, illuminating, touching. Guanyin is the one that deeply compassionate, to touch with compassion, activated through this activity, this practice of deep listening, the one who listens not only to sound, but the listening into the very nature, the sentiency of all beings, to feel, to hear with, without being entangled, swept away, reactive, judging, defended. To illuminate, to know, to touch with compassion, to liberate, to transform, to heal. So we just sit for a short while. So, just give us a moment. We're just going to rearrange our seating arrangement here a little bit. Take a few moments to stretch, maybe. So can you hear us okay? I just moved the mic. Okay. So yeah, so welcome everyone. So glad you can be here. And as you know, as you read, and some of you know a little more of the story, Kittisaro's been away for 2 years from Chalice House, which is our base here, our Sacred Mountain Sangha base here in Sebastopol, Northern California. And about 100 miles up the road is in Ukiah, is the city of 10,000 Buddhas, which was founded in 1976 by Master Xunhua, who's a Chan master and a master of the 5 main transmission threads of the Dharma: Sutta study,
Vinaya, Dhyana, which is like Chan, secret school, Pure Land.
Yes. The secret, the esoteric mantric school is part of what we also with the Kuan Yin Dharmas. Secret not because it's not an open Dharma, it's an open Dharma, but the response body, the responses in the heart are known by us more directly. Sometimes shared, sometimes not. So we've had this affinity for over 40 years with this lineage and interaction when we were monastics ourselves back in the day. And we started practicing, I think, first with the Great Compassion Mantra, probably about 44 years ago, which we've been sharing a lot now. And some of the other practitioners, there's always been this strong sense of affinity. And then we never had the chance to live very near to the city of 10,000 Buddhas. And when it came, Kittisaro, when we came here, one of the great advantages of being in this area that we're in the Bay Area of San Francisco, is that we're now near to this, one of these root lineages that were very important to us. And Kittisaro took the decision when you hit 70 to take 2 years out and deeply dedicate himself to this MA. The frame of it was the Masters in Buddhist Classics 2-year program, which just graduated from, as you know, yesterday. And so we're going to ask you about how that was. So first of all, we were at the ceremony. A few of us went to the ceremony yesterday, and we're going to have a little party here today at the house. And you gave a speech. All the students gave a few minutes speech. And one of the things that you said in your speech towards the end, almost like a throwaway comment, but I'm going to start there, is you said you've been to Princeton University, which is, you know, a great kind of university in the US, and great in that it's a very high profile university. And you were one of Rhodes scholarship to Oxford, so you've been in Oxford, but you said the most important university and process, scholastic process you've been through has been actually at the Dharma Realm Buddhist University, seated within the city of 10,000 Buddhas. So I wanted to ask you more about why.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kittisaro, and greetings, everyone. First, I just want to note that was an extraordinary gift that you gave me, allowing me to do this 2 years, because that meant she had to hold a lot more responsibility of the house. I could come back for a few days every few months, but that was a lot. But Tanisha trusted that this experience was important, and I'm really grateful for that trust and that offering. And it was an incredibly precious time. I mean, at Princeton and Oxford, I met incredible professors, and there were, wonderful schools, and there was a great privilege and opportunity to study there. What made Dharma Realm Buddhist University so different is the integrated model, more intimate. It was small. My master's cohort was 8 students, probably with the undergraduates and the graduate students, the translation students, and the faculty. It's about 100 of us, maybe even less, in the whole university. And it's incredibly protected and enveloped. It's literally inside the monastery of the city of 10,000 Buddhas. And to be at the university, one is dedicated to the 5 precepts. I mean, that's just without thinking. In other words, this ethical foundation of everything that happens at the university, of the non-harming, non-exploiting. It's not a party school. And yet, there's deep exploration of what does it mean to have wholesome joy and celebration, but it is not about that. And it's a school that, so there's that deep ethical commitment by every single, from top to bottom, person who's there, whether it's faculty or whether it's a student. And then you, in my program at least, you have these Buddhist classics, these sacred texts that one engages with, like the Shurangama Sutra and the Lotus Sutra and the 6 Patriarchs Platform Sutra and the Avatamsaka Sutra, these that I'd never really had the chance to study. And so you're studying these profound teachings of the Buddha in this ethical, with fellow classmates. We had, in our little cohort, there was 8, and then one other student joined us. Our little group was from China, Vietnam, New Zealand, and the States. And so we have a teacher or teachers that are deeply pure-hearted practitioners. Some of my teachers were early disciples of Master Hua, so they had been with the master for years, from the early days in the late 60s and 70s. So you had the teacher encouraging, but then the students, as we're all going through these texts, we would have 3-hour seminars where we're discussing the text and relating all these profound revelatory and liberating principles to our own awareness. So there's also this commitment of the school, of the class, of the individuals to cultivating an awareness, an overseeing, a mindful of what is the processes of living, of interaction, of feeling happy, of not feeling so happy. So when I say integrated, I mean, everything is gathered into this principle, and it's underneath it. There's this profound principle, which is at the heart of Mahayana Buddhism. It's at the heart of what the Buddha realized on the night of his awakening. For example, this is an aside, but it relates to it. When the sixth patriarch was awakened, he said, how unexpected, how unexpected, how unexpected, how unexpected. What's unexpected? That it's not that he got something, attained something, acquired something, that with a profound relinquishment of all these conditioned assumptions about ourself and the world, about the subject and the object here and there, me and them, real and unreal, all this complexity and intricacies of the fragmented world that's constellated by our entanglement with language, that when there was the illumination of that process and the emptying of thought, the purifying of thought, of its deluding tendencies, then there was the recognition that the whole universe, all living beings are arising and ceasing within this one mind, this one awareness, and that these treasures, this is this hugely important principle, the treasures of wisdom, compassion, all that we're aspiring to, patience, courage, skill, eloquence, peace, are all inherent. They're not things we have to go get. They're inherent in the heart. So this university hearkened back to the ancient, original, wholesome notion of education, educare, which means to draw out, to bring forth. That education is more like the Buddhist word for meditation, bhavana, to bring into being by activating wisdom, compassion. They're not out there. It's cultivating this garden of the heart, as opposed to an education that's just programming.
Right.
Programming to make more money, to get more, to get this, to get that. So the how unexpected was it's opening to what's already here. So anyway, I'm very inspired by that. I do feel it is so aligned with our future, this encouraging every single living being to open to this incredible potentiality.
Wow, that's brilliant. So my next question is, tell us about a typical day.
A typical day. Well, typical day. At first I thought arrogantly, and then also feeling can't just abandon Kittisaro. I thought I would commute, study in the weekends, come home. One, we only have one car, so that was complicated. But also I just realized the curriculum is so challenging. The texts and the readings and the paper writing that I had to keep up with the youngsters. I had to really work on the weekends just to keep up. And many times I just felt it's too much. But can I have an amen and a hallelujah? I mean, the so many times I was exhausted, and I got a hallelujah up there. So many times, what do we do when we're exhausted? We remember the first noble truth. There's some suffering here. Let's open to it in that deep listening into, opening to what seems overwhelming and difficult as one honors that. And then my supreme doctor, who I call Dr. Yin, Dr. Kuan Yin, reminds me, don't worry, Kittisaro, just ever so gently hold my name. Let that sound that appears and dissolves of Kuan Yin mingle with the exhausted, the overwhelmed. I can't keep up. I can't do it. It's too much. Lie down and then just meditate and watch this alchemy, magnificent alchemy of when patient, kind awareness receives the impossible. There's a transmutation that can happen. And I mean, if it's one's time to die, maybe it's one's time to die. But if one's really humbly opening, if one's engaged in something that's wholesome, my experience is there's unexpected healing there. And I would see the life force come back. So I realized I couldn't come back and help you regularly. And so you were, Tanisha had a lot more to do. But then also to keep up, my usual day was get up at 4, and oftentimes not feeling great when I get up. But there it is, 4 o'clock, and you're up in the morning. And so what I first do is I do some breathing to try to, because the body's often exhausted, do a 10, 15 minutes of our breathing practice. And then I allow the vibration of the body and that feeling to be received, tired feeling. And then now that I can sit up and stretch a little bit, my hips and legs, so that I can then sit, and then I do my recitation. This is in my room, so I have to do it quietly. I don't want to wake other people up or disturb them in our dorm. And then I would chant the Shurangama mantra, this long mantra, which protects the Dharma. And it's part of the wonderful Shurangama Sutra that I studied, where Kuan Yin plays this prominent role in terms of Kuan Yin's meditation of returning the hearing. Then I would recite the Great Compassion Mantra 5 times. Then I would do, there's things I, through the school, have memorized to recite, and would, like there's 10 verses from the Avatamsaka Sutra that just relate, I'll recite them, that just relate ordinary activities, which practitioners, we're being mindful of ordinary activities, but to relate an ordinary activity to the surrounding sentience, to the surrounding reality of our fellow living beings, with a compassionate intent, with the intent so it's relating. It's this. I've loved recitation for years, but I'm more and more appreciative of the value of memorization, as not memorize this, but as a tool, vitaka, for a skillful thought that directs your attention to relate your ordinary life to the welfare of the whole. So here, for example, in the Avatamsaka Sutra, this flower garland sutra, which is just mind-blowingly vast, and chapter 11 is about pure contact. There's like 100 verses. Our teacher had us just pick 10 and memorize them. At first I resisted, more memorization. But then this teacher, who is a Bhikshuni, Dharma Master Hung Yi, she was wonderful. Oh, you can do it. And she's so enthusiastic and deeply dedicated to the Dhamma. So I picked 10. And this just every day reflecting on these 10 started showing me how much I rely on peace and letting go to restore, and then action, and then restore, and then get back into the world. It helped me show that these two dimensions are deeply interwoven. So here's my 10. Now the languaging from the sutta, I'm going to say he, but then this is applying to everyone, he, she, they. So so please let the pronouns be universal. When he engages in an act of giving, he should vow, may all beings become able to relinquish everything and acquire minds entirely free of fond attachments. Whenever he sets down his feet to stand up, he should vow, may all beings have minds that achieve liberation and stand securely in an immovable state. Whenever he lifts his foot, he should vow, may all beings escape from the ocean of samsara and possess all the many good dharmas. When defecating and urinating, he should vow, may all beings expel greed, hatred, and delusion, and relieve themselves of the dharmas of karmic offenses. When setting out on a road, he should vow, may all beings walk in the pure Dharma realm with minds free of obstacles. When seeing a great river, he should vow, may all beings be able to enter the stream of the Dharma and flow into the Buddha's ocean of wisdom. When seeing an empty bowl, he should vow, may all beings have minds that are pure and empty of all the afflictions. When seeing a bowl that is full, he should vow, may all beings completely fulfill all of the good dharmas. When going to sleep, at the appropriate time, he should vow, may the bodies of all beings become peaceful and secure, and may their minds remain unmoved and undisturbed. When first awakening from sleep, he should vow, may all beings awaken to all knowledge and be able to see throughout the 10 directions. I started to do this, because those touch, going to sleep, waking up, setting out on a road, seeing a river, going to the bathroom, it took ordinary moments and helped with a skillful thought place this in what is actual. We're always surrounded by our fellow sentients. And just as we're cultivating what is, when we're in a mindful moment, for our welfare, it's relating it to the welfare of all, to the practice of all, to the potentiality of all. It was my first visceral experience of, you've heard this notion of Indra's net, this, where there's this net of all these priceless gems or pearls that interpenetrate and interreflect endlessly. As I was walking, just once a week, I would walk to Safeway. I didn't have a car. 25-minute walk to Safeway. I would recite things and through Yukai and get this oat milk that helped me with my morning drink of mud, a mushroom coffee with a little bit of instant
Coffee.
organic coffee. I had to supplement a little bit. But anyway, when setting out on a road, and then just having the thought, may all beings walk in the pure Dharma realm with minds free of obstacles. It's incredible, that thought. And then everyone you see, just may they be free of obstacles. I started getting this sense of these pearls. It was, I realized I'm conditioned a bit like a hermit. I love helping, but I retreat back to my little, and so it was leaning into fellow sentience, so that's an example of something. Then I do my recitation, I do stretches, and then I get ready, study for an hour, and then I get taken to school at 7:30. It takes 15 minutes to get to school. So I just start with that. That's the morning. So by the time I get to school, then we have a 3-hour seminar from 8 to 11.
Wow.
And on this last semester on the Lotus Sutra,
right,
which is Kuan Yin's universal doors within that. And also the Avatamsaka, which is, I just talked a bit about it. And then one was called Buddhist Hermeneutics, which was the ways. The last semester was about the Buddhist hermeneutics of self. So anyway,
I love it all. It sounds great. Really so profound and so integrative. And yeah, I'm very struck by this educare and not just being programmed to be a good cog in the machine of the sort of uber capitalist societies we live in, and how the very premise of your training was breaking set. So I'm just wondering, how did that unfold in a class situation? You know, when you talked about this inquiry and interacting and, you know, what is a typical class when you take a text or you take that seminar and you explore it together? What did that look like?
No, it's very, very interesting. Well, like one of my teachers, Stacy Chen, who was in elementary school in the city with her brother when the master was there. So when she was a teenager, she knew the master, and now she's one of the leaders of the school, and she teaches various things. I think it has a PhD in something, I'm not sure what, but she's very good with Google Classroom and with what was good about that is, for example, she recently helped us along with Doug Powers, study the Lotus Sutra. So we would take a chapter or a couple of chapters every week, and then we all would and then on the Google Classroom you can post. Each of us would find the passage that struck us most, that really touched us, and the questions that arose from that passage. Then we would quote the passage on Google, so we all see each other's thing, put it in there, put the page number on the text that we all had, put our question, and then every week one of the students would also be assigned to help lead the discussion. So it's not just this usual top down, no, the professor gives you the answers, and then it's really helpful to have deeply wise teachers. But when they're committed to this process of returning the power of shared inquiry. So anyway, then we come to the class, and then the one that was supposed to lead it is supposed to give a little introduction. Each of the students would give a little introduction about how the chapter struck us. Then we would call on the passages that our fellow classmates, and then there's a discussion that happens, and then of course the teacher helps guide it. But it was so also I can't remember specific instances, but each of our light through our personal stories, our angle of understanding that would stimulate the other. So we would, I realized, the Buddha, the third refuge of Sangha was not just to throw away, got to make up the numbers. Buddha Dhamma, that should be enough. Buddha, the essential awareness, Dhamma of the way things are, it's good enough. What do we need Sangha for? Maybe just two wasn't, you got to have a holy three. But, our blind spots, our by definitions, we don't see them. And that there's something about the friction, the interaction, of ourselves with one another that especially when we share this commitment to awakening and commitment to ethical guidelines of non-harming and wishing for the welfare of each other, that then allows a kind of magic. So we grew together through the text. Wow. And then we would share presentations. We would hear each other's papers and things like that.
I love it. Yeah, I love that sort of co-learning situation and co-leading, co-inquiring. It takes a lot to put yourself out there. It's a bit vulnerable, I imagine, for students to share and be open did you critique each other's or feedback or?
Well, we would sometimes have differences of opinion, but they commented that they couldn't believe how harmonious our class was. I mean, we were very respectful of each other, but we definitely had different angles and emphases from our own life. But there was a very familial over the 2 years quality to our group. Yeah, I mean, you know.
Tell us about the pizza night.
Pizza night. Well, on Fridays, one of my classmates, Alfonso, he was in the undergraduate program and he graduated from his 4 years. He made pizza on Friday nights. And so remember, our dorm, which used to be run by a nunnery for troubled children, and then at some point, I guess that you know, they ended up selling it, and the master, someone got that land for the master, and that then became the Sudana Center. They have this beautiful courtyard that you saw, and the nuns' chapel has become a beautiful Buddha hall, and so it is mainly the dorm for the men, but all the school is invited. The women from up in the city all can come down on Friday evening for our pizza. So we would have the pizza at say 5:45, 6 o'clock. They come down for pizza in our and there would sometimes be you know, karaoke or but there was always a tea. My friend Brandon would make the most amazing Chinese tea, and it would after the really hard week of study, he would make this pua tea, or this, is it called oolong? Oolong tea, and it was just so medicinal. I mean, as you know, it's a bit, occasionally people would dance, and that'd be really hard to get me to do something like that. And but anyway, but it was very, you know, there's no alcohol or anything like that, and everything is just really so wholesome. But usually there's at least the tea, there's conversations, occasionally there's you know, recitation of poetry or something like that, but it's informal. And for me, especially the first semester, I was so deeply tired. This tea with these tiny cups made so well, I would just feel my whole body relaxing. Because I had to use a lot of willpower to. I mean, we also studied all these. We did an archaeology of Western philosophy to receive the Buddhist, to get a feeling of how Buddhism was received. So we went and studied the early ancient Greeks, studied you know, Descartes and Kant and Hume and Nietzsche, and those aren't just flip the page. I mean, these texts are really challenging, and we had an incredible teacher. And so, you know, for me, I always thought philosophy was just being clever with words so you could win arguments. I didn't realize that these philosophers were deep practitioners. And so to keep up with the readings, these hard texts and the paper writing, I would get so tired. And it was just so nice on the pizza night with that visceral experience of relaxing with the medicinal qualities of that tea to just enjoy listening and appreciating my fellow students, and then talking to them about what they're going through. And so, you know, I got treated with a lot of kindness, and which was heartwarming.
Thank you. It sounds like a wonderful balance. In your schedule, we can open up for some questions, but I think really an important question. There's so much to ask you about. Things like, what was your favorite text and so on. But I think really important for a Sacred Mountain Sangha and the unique way that we've been working to interface and integrate aspects of Theravada and Mahayana, because this is like a basically Mahayana tradition and lineage that has a lot of openness to Theravada. In the early days, they were actually, and still do, I think, taking some of the chants from the monastic lineage of the Theravada.
They still do.
And they still chant them and study. What was important for you in what the Mahayana was bringing to you as someone that's so deeply rooted in the particular style of Theravada, of the Thai forest school that we trained in?
Yeah, well, I do want to repeat that I got a particular instruction from Master Hua about bringing the traditions together, and that's very important to me. And that school it's important to the school as well, and they're interested in me helping continue that, which I felt honored. But so remember when the master told me and a few other monks, you should bring the two traditions together into a single piece. The northern and southern traditions must unite, and then Buddhism has a future. This is your mission. Do not assume that the great vehicle is superior to the Theravada or vice versa. Have no limits. The teaching has no limits. Let your mind be limitless.
Wow, definitely.
So all these classical Theravada practices of the Four Truths, so important. As dynamic, not just truths you put in your pocket. I got that one. Can we go on to the next? To the truths are dynamic, revelatory mirrors to be like, suffering, to be open to, when we're experiencing that, which is stressful, to open to it, be patient, to go against the stream of the dismissing it or blaming it on someone else or getting entangled. The opening to suffering allows one to see how we perpetuate it. The teachings around relinquishment, letting be, letting go, open up this ground of peace so that we start to touch the underlying ground, the essential nature, the true nature, the Buddha nature, the unconditioned, deathless nature, and this mindful path. And so in the classical Theravada teachings, which are so important for opening up that ground, we contemplate the five khandhas, the form or the body, feeling, perception, volition, our tendencies and consciousness, the three characteristics, anicca, change, dukkha, suffering, anatta, selflessness, the paticca samuppada. But I guess what was really so important in the Mahayana, which is just builds off that, because as one deepens in our experience of peace, the mind can still come in and through cognition, subtle perception, label this is peace and that's the world. This is peace and that's the world. The world, when you cling to it, it's suffering, let go. There still is a subtle sense of the observer and the observed, the subject and the object, this primordial split. And even though there's a profound and wondrous lessening of affliction that opens up the magnificent otherworldly, what is called change of lineage, touching into this deathlessness. I guess in the Mahayana, there's this notion that's one important obstacle, but there's a whole nother, there's what's called the obstacle to what is known. And so it's one thing to let go. When we let go, and that's very important, that with all our classical practices, as we let go more deeply in terms of stream entry and stuff, we touch into this, and our confidence deepens when we start to really trust this this essential nature, that no matter how bad it is, if we let go, we realign with what is true. The Mahayana teachings through the bodhicitta, through this commitment to the awakening of everyone, we are encouragements to keep leaning into staying connected to that peace in the midst of contact, to understanding conditionality more and more profoundly, to the deepening cultivation of these liberating paramitas. All these Theravada qualities, they're just extended to the generosity, to include our fellow beings, to the virtue, to include to the patience as we're faced with all the challenges within and around us, deepening vigor, deepening our chan, our samadhi, and the wisdom. I guess this principle that's been new, and I'm now getting a deeper visceral experience of it, that really the whole world, here's another thing I recite every day, that literally the mountains, here we're in a forest, the computer screen, each other, you guys, everything is arising. And this is true for all of you, all of us. The world that is arising in this one heart, the whole world, the earth, the universe, the galaxies are all arising and ceasing within this one mind, this one ground. And that all these teachings, liberating teachings, are guiding us to what's called the ekarasa, the one taste, the one unifying principle of peace and of freedom. And so basically all these Theravada practices, as they're deepened, they just naturally are inclusive for everything. So as we practice and as we remember to include all our fellow beings as part of our true nature, then our practice more and more blesses everything and everyone. And so something from the Sharangama, which means indestructible, durable, that I recite every day. It's about the two roots. We don't have time, but our Mula Sutra, our beloved Mula Sutra, the 10-line sutra, has these same two roots in it. Mula means root, but in the Sharangama Sutra, it's a whole deeper exploration of the two roots. The two roots are, one, what is the root of birth and death, all the suffering? What's the origin of that? And then the other root is the profound true nature root. So here's the recitation of that section of the two roots. Roots, R-O-O-T-S, roots. The reason those who cultivate cannot accomplish unsurpassed bodhi, but instead reach the level of a sound hearer or of one enlightened to conditions, or become accomplished in outside ways as heaven dwellers or as demon kings or as members of the retinue of demons, is that they do not know the two fundamental roots. They're like one who cooks sand, and they are mistaken and confused in their cultivation. They're like one who cooks sand in the hope of creating savory delicacies. They may pass through as many eons as there are motes of dust, but in the end they will not obtain what they want. What are the two? Ananda, the first, is the root of beginningless birth and death, which is the mind that seizes upon conditions and that you and all living beings now make use of, taking it to be the self nature. The second is the primal pure substance of the beginningless Bodhi Nirvana. It is the primal bright essence of consciousness that can bring forth all conditions. Because of conditions, you consider it to be lost. Therefore, though you use it to the end, living beings, you have lost sight of the original brightness. Therefore, though you use it to the end of your days, you are unaware of it and without intending to enter the various destinies. So that last part, living beings have lost sight of the original brightness. Therefore, though you use it to the end of your days, living beings have lost sight of it and therefore enter the various destinies. I've forgotten a word here and there, but this essence, this pure mind, that the whole universe arising and ceasing, and as that faith, and this is where faith or confidence, or when Kuan Yin's to listen at ease to the sound of the world, as we deepen our trust and capacity to relinquish everything into this deep listening, more and more the recognition that the whole world, all living beings are rising and ceasing within this heart. That it's been so profound and so deeply inspiring for me to bring forth ever more vigor and effort in my practice.
Thank you so much, Kittisaro. This dissolving of separative consciousness. I'm really excited what you're bringing, these deep treasures that you have plumbed the depths of, and it's endless depths of, we never in one lifetime get to that. But the essences of this transmission, coupled with the profound relinquishment of the Theravada that we had the transmission of, that how we can translate that into undoing the systems of oppression in these times that are kind of spiraling the planetary life into a sort of state of complete breakdown and increasing barbarism, and that how do we apply this medicine? So I'm very excited to unpackage some of what you've been saying and practicing, or all of it, what you've and how do we apply and bring this medicine to this world in such a critical place of where we are navigating a massive planetary emergency. So lots of work for us all to do in these fields, of course, and we'll take a few questions. Just give me a sec. So thank you, Kathy. What was your thesis and how much Sanskrit did you explore?
Is it Emma? Yeah. We had what's called strand papers. So there was a major paper in every course. So I wrote a paper on Nietzsche. I wrote a paper on the Sixth Patriarch and Repentance and Reform. I wrote a paper on the Han Shan's Wandering in a Dream. I wrote a paper on the Lotus Sutra. I wrote a paper on the Shurangama Sutra, these two fundamental roots. Sanskrit, the whole first year, I did had 3 classes a week, 3 2-hour classes a week, the whole first year on Sanskrit. And we did a half-hour of recitation at the beginning of every class. And the language was voluntary in the second semester. And our one teacher suggested that to give ourselves more time for meditation, and especially as I was struggling to keep up, I didn't do it the second year, but I loved the Sanskrit. And I felt like the precision because it was, first oral, it was based on sound. I mean, the scripts came later, and the precision around every sound and how it vibrates the body, and where in the mouth that the sound is made, and the intricacies of the grammar the complicated Sanskrit grammar that made me realize how sloppy with English I was, and it helped me notice my own language more. So though I think I've probably, and I was had to learn the Devanagari script, and even though I've forgotten a lot, I want to go back. But I so loved chanting and just beginning the class while we're chanting all these forms of the language in the different cases, just and memorizing that. When our class would chant together, just even that much, just feeling the vibratory. Yeah, I'm going too long. I could talk for hours, but anyway, the intellectual knowledge is one thing. There's a non-conceptual knowing that is just so awesome, which is at the root of our inherent wisdom.
Yeah.
That Sanskrit helped me open to.
Beautiful. From Jennifer, did you draw connections with how these ancient texts can address issues in engaged Buddhism today, environmental justice, gender and racial justice, etc.?
Absolutely. Yes, because all of these precepts, the Buddha taught that we keep the precepts. It's for our well-being, but he also emphasized, because we're not creating all this harmful karma that brings all this blowback. But he also, as one deepens in the understanding of the illusion of self and other, we realize that the so-called others are part of our nature, and the precepts become, the ethical living becomes the great gifts, offering freedom from fear, hostility, and oppression to immeasurable beings. So these the bodhisattva, the real deep intentionality to wake up, and that all beings wake up, then if there's an injustice, it's not just their injustice. It is to be met and to be touched with compassion. So one is in that training, one is learning how to tirelessly, and that involves some skill of how to keep recuperating, tirelessly respond depending on causes and conditions, where one's strengths are, what's presenting itself to you. We're all the hands and eyes of Kuan Yin. We little by little tirelessly meet and help heal, help transform, help transmute, help purify the injustices, the sufferings within and around us. So these texts, really, if we deeply go into them, really are for the welfare of the whole. Now, it might involve at some periods of time doing something that might look to someone selfish. But while we're thinking someone might be selfish as they're in there meditating, they might be, finding the strength and the clarity then that will lead to this. That's the winter, to that spring of blessing. For all we know, some person that we might think is there just quietly meditating, they might be putting out a field that is incredibly healing. So we have to be real careful about who we think is doing all the work. But as each of us listen, if we nurture compassion, then we start to get a feeling of how we can be of service, how we can make a difference, and it's going to show up quite uniquely.
Yeah, I had a dream last night, and I think I'd like to share it at this point, because I think there is a place where Buddhists have become preferenced a quietism, which the dream was, it was like being on the Titanic. I mean, I think this is a kind of metaphor that's been used a lot in these times, the Titanic going down, and the first class passengers trying to get off first and all the rest of it. And I was with a small group of people trying to wait this huge vessel to bring it back. And there was this huge body of people in the middle that weren't moving. And I was, and this insight was, it was almost I was being told that people in the middle have to move. They have to, you know, so I think there does need to be encouragement for us to translate that quietism in whatever capacities we can, to move the dial, to, you know, to bring our voice, our skill, our privileges that we have, for the sake of undoing these systems of not only oppression, but that which is actually undermining the sustainability for all beings in this incredible, the only home we really all have, this incredible, extraordinary, mysterious, sacred earth, you know. So I just want to also embroider more around your, well, you know, this is the heart really of Sacred Mountain Sangha, this juggling and exploring how do we balance this deep inner, you know, the all external activism really underwritten by shifts of consciousness like you've been exploring and we all explore. It's really a very potent medicine, I think. So Juna, you asked about, you got the message about the text references. I think we better, the memorizations, I think we can send that out to folks.
I can send out the 10 I learned.
Yeah.
And it's
that was the Avatamsaka
chapter 11.
Chapter 11.
Pure conduct. I'm just scratching the surface, but these, an appreciation of the staying aligned with the text keeps stretching us. Because what you're talking about, when this bodhicitta is always thinking about the welfare of everyone, not just.
I think the bodhicitta thing is a like nuclear practice. I mean, it's really, we're being asked to go to depths of the non-separative, the deep compassion, then perhaps deeper than we've ever needed to go to manage this time. So a lot to explore in that dimension and that process together. Thank you so much for being here. I think it'd be lovely to ask you, Kittisaro, coming back with all this sort of fresh energy. We're all flagging, I'm flagging, to share blessings at the end of our session.
Okay.
Together.
May we feel just the resonance of our words, each other's presence, of the grace that each of us can remember and know that we are breathing, that we have enough energy to be here together and remember this bubbling spring that unites us, this source of nourishment, refreshment, life, direction, hope, this bubbling spring of the Buddha Dharma, this sacred core that unites us. May we appreciate that good fortune, that goodness that allows us and reminds us not to get so lost, entangled in that being a refugee from the blessings, from the goodness. We all humbly realize how much there still is to do within and around us, but we can savor this moment of our remembering our good fortune. Let it, as we relax in a moment, bless every cell in our body from the crown of our head down to the soles of our feet, out to every finger. May I be well, may I be at ease, free from distress, safe, as we savor that moment. And as we deeply relax, may we just trust that we are deeply in kinship with one another, with all things, all times, all places. As we relax, may the light As we relax, may the light of our nature just shine as we breathe in and relax on the out breath. May the blessings of our life be shared for the welfare of all, omitting none, ever extending. May all beings near and far be blessed. May this blessing calm violence. May it penetrates the hard heart. May it penetrate the hard-hearted and soften back into patience and kindness. May catastrophe be quelled. May all beings experience peace. May the blessings of our life be shared for the welfare of all.
Thank you so much, dear friends, for joining us. Thank you so much, Kittisaro. It's so great to have you back home, have you back as part of SMS in a more engaged way. Not that you weren't part of it as you were sending so many good vibes to us from the monastery and the university. Thank you for your messages in the chat. Yes, indeed. May these teachings and practices continue to suffuse and grow and inform our practice. Blessings, everyone. We just, go well, stay well, and we'll see you again soon, no doubt, in our little squares, our little Zoom squares. Stay well, much love, and thank you.